Good morning. Yesterday, Tuesday, May the 26th, on the church calendar was the feast of St. Augustine of Canterbury. Now, you might remember in your Anglican church history that Augustine of Canterbury was the first archbishop. He was sent there by Pope Gregory the Great, I think that was the right Gregory, who had seen English boys and girls in the slave markets of Rome with blonde hair and blue eyes, and he asked somebody what they were, and somebody said they were Angles, and the bishop said, well, they look more like angels, and that these people needed to be evangelized. So he went looking for somebody to send to England to evangelize, and he picked Augustine, who was a monk. And the Pope said to Augustine, Augie, I want you to go to England, and I want you to convert those barbarians to Christianity. Augustine said, he wasn't really interested, I think, of leaving the monastery. I think he liked the quiet life, but he went. The Pope said he had to go. So he went, and he traveled up through France, and as he got closer and closer to the English Channel, he heard more and more stories about the vicious nature of the people who lived in England. And he became a bit faint of heart. And after a while decided, I'm not going. I'm going back to Rome. So he went back to Rome, and the Pope found out about it, called him in, and said, Father Augustine, we need to have a chat. And so they chatted. I have a sneaking suspicion it was probably a one-sided chat. The upshot being Augustine set off again to go to England. He got there. He crossed over the Channel, landed in England. And interesting enough was greeted by Queen Bertha, Queen to King Ethelbert, I think. Anyway, Augustine had sweated blood worrying about the reception he would get. Would he be dragged off and tortured, boiled in oil? How would his martyrdom come about at the hands of these violent, savage Angles? Problem is, the people that met him were Christians. Berta had come from a Christian family in France. Her retainers were all Christian. She had her own chaplain. She had a chapel. She did services. Surprise! And her husband, who was not converted at the time but sympathetic to Christianity, gave Augustine the land for his first church and later cathedral. Long story short, sometimes we agonize over things that we don't need to. The other part about yesterday being the feast of St. Augustine of Canterbury is it marked the 47th anniversary of my ordination as a deacon, ordained in Christ Cathedral in Lexington, Kentucky, and ready to go out and save the world. I knew everything I needed to know. I'd spent 3 years in seminary. I was ready to go. Like Augustine, sometimes the closer you get to your calling, the more nervous you become. And I think that any serious Christian minister, ordained minister, needs to confront that. Needs to confront the idea that there will be challenges to our call. We will be called to go to places we don't want to go. We will be called to minister to people we don't want to minister to. We will be called to enter into situations that, all things being equal, we'd just soon be someplace else. That's the call that we have in the ordained ministry. Now, I'll have to admit that I have worried and frustrated over a lot of those issues for the last 47 years. There have been times that, I'm like Jonah. I would rather go the other direction than go to Nineveh and confront the problem I needed to be confronting at that point. But God tells us that you don't have a choice. You have been ordained into God's one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. You have been ordained as a deacon, a priest, or bishop. And there are certain obligations that go with that calling. But I will say that in 47 years, I've confronted a lot of ugly situations, tense settings, encountering people I would rather not encounter. But I don't remember a time when I felt that I was there by myself. I don't remember a time when I don't think that God is with me. There are sometimes my private prayer, especially in the midst of an ongoing situation, an emergency, might be to God to say, Lord, don't let me screw this one up. And I think that's a valid prayer. And I think, for the most part, I've been empowered and supported by God in this ministry. Now, you don't have to be ordained to feel supported in Christian ministry. By virtue of our baptism, all Christians are called to be ministers of the gospel. We're all called to share the message of Christ, the love of God, the forgiveness, the healing of the Spirit, all these great things. And we're called to do that sometimes in less than pleasant circumstances. Sometimes our witness will be with words. Sometimes our witness will be with our lives and how we live them and how we respond to other people. Yes, we're going to be a bit afraid. We're going to be apprehensive often enough. We're going to be listening to stories that may or may not be true. But I think when we arrive at the destination God is calling us to on that day, we're going to find out, as St. Augustine did, that God was already there. And he greets us. He may say to us, we have work to do, but I'm here with you. So it's okay to be a little skittish about your Christianity. It's okay sometimes to be a little frightened of what God may be calling you to do. It may be okay to feel a little apprehensive in dealing with people who are not like us. But when we do, I think we're going to discover that God is already there. And he's there waiting for us to go to work and to help him engage in the ministry he has planned for that place. So I look back and I think 47 years is a long time. A long time for anything. Gosh, that's 7 years longer than Moses wandered in the wilderness. But it's been good. I've enjoyed it. For the most part, I would not have traded it for anything else. And for the most part, I've learned that where I am called to go, when I get there, God is usually there first, waiting for me to arrive and saying, time to go to work. God talks to us each day. Every morning he says, time to go to work. You too, time to go to work. So, get up off your chair, off your couch, out of your recliner. It's time to go to work. Have a great day. And remember, wherever you're going, God's already there.